If you take a gigantic collapse and it turns into a huge cravat, do you know what to do? Today I'm going to review footage sent in by a viewer so that you know exactly what to do if this ever happens to you. Are you ready? Here we go.
See ya.
I'm paragliding!
See ya.
Hey everybody, this is Ari in the Air. Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. I'm back on a tear here on YouTube. I recently made a video about huge collapses and cravats so that you guys can see it. Hopefully get a lot of clarity on exactly what to do if you have a huge cravat. So stoked to be back here on YouTube. Have been over on Instagram, grinding, building a business, launching the Paragliding Men's group. So this was sent in by a viewer. His YouTube handle is Scenic Steve. This is a flight in South Africa, and he made me aware that on this day that he flew 100 kilometers, and unfortunately a local pilot died on this day, Josh Degenar, and so we're dedicating this video to our lost buddy Josh. There seems to be a lot of wind in this video and a lot of turbulence, so even though our Scenic Steve made it 100K. This is the video of his first 100K. He's at 97K when he takes this collapse. More wind equals more turbulence. It's a square law. So if you double the wind speed, you quadruple the amount of turbulence in the air. It's something that every pilot should know. Okay, so let's watch this video one time over. I'll just give you my reaction, and then we're going to break it down and show you exactly what happens here. Oh, yep, pumping. That's not the thing. Oh, God. Okay, smaller. Oh. Oh, accidentally stalls. Oh, let it fly. Oh, restall. Oh, line twist. Oh, he's out. Fucking hell. 3K to go. Did not need that. No, brother, you did not. Okay, so. Right as he takes the title off. Pow! Okay, let's pause it. That is an 85% collapse, I would say. And the problem here, a couple of things. It looks like the pilot is on speed bar, pushing into headwind. When he takes the whack, it collapses most of the glider. What needs to happen here that doesn't is his left hand needs to go past his seat board to keep this active wingtip from flying itself over into the lines, which is exactly what happens. The glider shoots, right? That open part of the wing makes, like whatever's open is going to inflate first. So as it does, it shoots over, it takes the other glider and it stacks it onto the lines and then reinflates. So then it starts flying, which stacks the deflated glider onto the lines, which creates as you can see here, a full 50% collapse. Like here's the logo. It's like collapsed and on the lines. So this is really, really serious cravat. A glider will not fly like this. So something is going to happen. So as you can see here, Steve has no wrap. He's holding on to the bottom of the brake toggles, which is not a great way to have a lot of authority over the glider. And you can see here that his first intuition is to pump, 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 pump. How many was that? 7, 8? Pump, pump. He's still just trying to pump the collapse side of the glider, which does nothing. When the glider is so cravated like this, look at what his pumps do. You can't even tell by looking at the back of the glider that anything is happening to the side of the glider that he's pumping. Okay. What you want to do in this instance is just like in the other video I talked about, don't let the glider turn you. With a big cravat, the glider wants to auto-rotate. You need to use the outside brake to keep the glider from auto-rotating. It's also best that you try your best to get your weight shift away from the cravated side of the glider, which is going to be very difficult. As we scroll back here, you can see, look at the disparity in riser length here. When the glider collapses, it basically feels like the harness falls off the side. And that's also why there's no brake pressure over there. So don't pump the cravated side when it's this big. When you have a small cravat, which we're going to get to in this video, then that's time you can pump, you can spin all kinds of different tactics. But when it's this big, look, his wingtip is not only like it's looped on the inside A of the opposite riser set. So it's like this thing is a mega cravat. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to, like, automatically, if I look up and I see this, I automatically know I need to backfly the glider. That's the only way. Either, like in this case, you can either take both brakes, wrap a bunch of both brakes, stuff it in your lap and throw your reserve, or you can backfly the glider. Those are your only two options. You don't want to let the glider auto-rotate. So, and you see he's still struggling with the left brake here because he has no half wrap. So at this point, you can see that the left wingtip is actually showing backfly. And this is when the glider stalls kind of inadvertently. And automatically, what happens to the cravat? It clears the vast majority of it. Okay. Steve does a good job of checking the glider as it comes forward, letting it fly. Okay, so here you can see still a pretty severe cravat on the right, but the glider is flying. Okay, so now it's turning. And here's the biggest problem with this kind of configuration. The problem with cravats is it sucks your attention to it. And so you look at it, which makes you lean over towards it. You try to like mess with it. You fixate. So once the cravat is this size, this glider is totally flyable. You can fly this glider. And you can do all kinds of things to keep it from stalling. You don't need to stall the glider to get this size cravat out. But what Steve is doing here, you have to remember also, he just totally shit his pants after having a nearly 100% collapse, a gigantic cravat. So he's probably not, at his best right in this moment. And it still is a pretty severe cravat. What needs to happen in this point, he needs to stop looking at the damn thing, get his head behind his left riser so he's weight shifted way over, and then just control the heading of the glider so that he can fly away from terrain, so that he can take a breath, take a beat. The glider will fly like this. Okay. But what happens is he's kind of looking over at it. So the glider is still turning to the right. The glider is still turning to the right. The glider is still turning to the right. Now he's pumping. And he's kind of like, if you look here at his left hand, he's kind of just unconsciously pulling this left brake, which that's not what you want. So you want to control the heading. And in this configuration, when you have a cravat, you got to be really conscious of airspeed. Cravats create a bunch of drag. They make the glider want to turn, but they also just slow it down in general. So you need to be mindful of your airspeed. And when you slam on the brake trying to clear the cravat, you want that to be a high airspeed moment that you're doing that. And then you want to allow the airspeed to build back up into the glider before you do it again. Because what ends up happening, he's kind of unconsciously pulling the left brake and he's pumping the right brake, but he's not weight shifted as hard as he can to the left. And what ends up happening is he stalls the glider, which if you're doing it on purpose, this is the best way to clear a sticky cravat is a bit of tail slide, and the glider starts flying forward. Oh, he catches it, which is pretty good here. That's what needed to happen. Whether he did it on purpose or not, it needed to happen. What happens here is that he becomes a bit heavy-handed. It looks like he pulls the left brake. He stalls the left side of the glider. It shoots hard. Now he's line twisted 180. No, thank you. But the glider is flying, and he's fine, and now he curses, and so let's go back. So, collapse. What you need right here, big left brake. Keep that wingtip from flying into itself and let the glider inflate. But it doesn't happen, so he horseshoes like a motherfucker. It inflates. He's got a horrible cravat. Now he's pumping the right side. That's not going to do anything. Steve needs left brake here because, look, he's line twisting. All right. Basically, he's hanging from almost one riser here. So he needs left brake right here. Stall the glider immediately. Now the glider stalls kind of inadvertently and not with a lot of authority, but it ends up stalling. And oh, yeah, look. So it's kind of a pre-stall, actually. He stalls it once right here, but he doesn't do it on purpose, so he doesn't keep it into a tail slide, and it shoots again, and he's kind of just pumping. And then now the glider stalls, and it stalls harder, so it flies backwards momentarily, so that now he halves or more the size of the cravat. But the cravat, as you can see here, is still quite significant. And then it starts turning to the right. He starts looking at it, so now he's weight shifted over towards it. The glider is now turned him 270 without his control. He needs to gain heading control by weight shifting left and pulling the left brake. The glider has now turned him 360 outside of his control. The rule here is don't let the glider turn you, don't let the glider turn you, don't let the glider turn you. Get heading control, get heading control, get heading control. If the cravat is big enough that it wants to turn the glider and your outside braking to control the heading is so much that the glider stalls, so be it. That's all that you need to know. Control the heading of the glider. If the glider is turning, then pull the outside brake. If it's still turning, pull more outside brake. If the glider stalls, so be it. Okay, you're better off dealing with a stall that you're not even good at dealing with than letting the glider auto-rotate you. Like, that's just every time. So now the glider stalls again, and he deals with the chute well, but seems like this is kind of an interesting thing. I'm not totally sure. It looks like his left hand is up. It's hard for me to see what is happening with his left hand here. It seems like he over brakes on the left and the glider flies back, and now his hand is up, and now he's hands up on both sides, letting the glider shoot, and it knocks him into a line twist, which with a flying glider at a 270 line twist is not the end of the world, and he's probably just glad to be under a fully flying paraglider, and he flies away. So, main takeaways here. If you want to keep this from happening, the moment that the glider collapses, your eyes need to be up on the glider, and whatever you see open, like pulling the collapsed brake here, you're a day late and $1 short. It's not going to do anything. Everything is slack over there. The only thing you can do here is catch this left wingtip from shooting so that it doesn't do this, right? Which basically means it would be enough brake that it would be stalling that glider, and you would be going into a tail slide from this configuration instead of this configuration, which is a lot better. Like, you'd rather tail slide the glider from here than from here. But at either, what's done is done. Now we have a huge cravat. The only way out of this size of cravat is backfly. The only way out of this size of cravat is backfly. There's no other way. There's no pulling the stabilo. There's none of this. Like, just look at this configuration and glue this into your mind. If you have a cravat of this proportion, the only way it's coming out is to stall the glider. Also, if the glider is this configuration, it's going to want to auto rotate hard. It will sat like this. Also, you got to be mindful of your airspeed. So as he clears this first cravat here, now this glider will fly like this. Weight shift the flying side of the glider. Stop looking at the cravat. Don't panic. Stay calm. Stay calm. Stay calm. Bring a towel. Okay? Don't panic. So you need to weight shift away. You see he's looking at the cravat. He's weight shifted neutral at best, if not towards the cravat. He keeps pumping it, which pulling the brake on the side that the glider is already turning is only going to make it turn more. And then he kind of inadvertently stalls the glider. So look, have a half wrap. If you need authority over the glider, you need a half wrap. That's for banging the brake to get the cravat out, but also for controlling the glider when it stalls, right? He stalls here. He's without a half wrap. That's not a good configuration for me. All of my training in acrobatics and stalls and stuff is all with a half wrap. If you're training stalls with an instructor at an SIV and you don't have a half wrap, then send me his contact. And I'm curious of what he thinks of training. I don't think that I've never heard of a SIV instructor teaching people to do SIV without a half wrap. Okay, guys, long story short here. So glad. Thank you, Scenic Steve, for sending this. I'm so glad this worked out. This is one of the, he had plenty of altitude and just enough training, but having the glider turn you without your control is the thing that we're avoiding. Don't let the glider turn you. Don't let the glider turn you. Don't let the glider turn you. This size cravat will come out with pumping the brake, pulling the stabilo, but the only way to do that is to be able to fly the glider straight when it's cravated. Right, so this is kind of a good example of the huge cravat, only a stall will fix. A small cravat like this, you need to get your weight shift onto the flying side of the glider, get your eyes away from the cravat, look at where you're going, get your eyes on the horizon, take a breath, take a beat, get control of the heading. Only then do you look up, have lots of airspeed, punch the brake as hard as you can, as fast as you can, and let it up immediately. If that doesn't do it, then you're going to need deeper, harder, and a slightly longer to spin the glider, because a spin is a stall, but it's asymmetric, right? So you can spin one side of the glider at the time. It just makes it a little easier to handle. But all things considered, this worked out well. Steve landed in a lot of wind 3 kilometers later or 5 kilometers later. So it's very serious business here, and I hope that this has been helpful for you. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you have crash footage, if you have huge collapse footage, if you want me to review it on this channel so that everyone can learn from it, please send it my way, airintheair@gmail.com. I welcome your inquiries. Love you guys. Here we go.